back to the Burgundy and Gold Review, everyone. I am Jess of HGTR.Nation with Sam of WSH Football 365. You can find us both on Instagram. This is the Burgundy and Gold Review, of course. What a week it has been for Washington. There is so many storylines to follow. Both Sean Taylor retirement ceremony, the John Gruden Washington investigation scandal, and almost the DEA raid that happened at head trainer Ryan Vermillion's offices a few weeks ago. It almost feels like the least talked about subject of this week in regards to the team has been their matchup with the Kansas City Chiefs, which is not what you want in the middle of the season, but we're going to at least tackle that subject for starters in this pod. But before we get into any of that, we just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor. And this episode is brought to you by Winview Games, the nation's sports prediction leader for home and pre-game live Washington football prop contests. I know all of you live and breathe Washington football, so if you want to put that knowledge to the test, download Winview right now at winview.tv/Burgundy Gold. That's winview.tv/Burgundy Gold. Play against other people in free or real money contests. You can also find the link in our Instagram bio at the BNG Review. Play your first $20 risk-free with Washington football contests every day until the end of the season, and I know this app is for you all. Sam and I, we checked it out. We just want to go over a few bets that we think have a good probability of hitting that Winview was gracious enough to send us to go over before this game. I mean, Sam, I'm not sure which ones you picked out. There were three that I was really eyeing that I feel like have a good probability of happening. And the first one is that Washington scores more than 21 points this game.
Yeah, I had that one on my list as well. Both teams don't really play a whole lot of defense, so to speak. So 21 points, realistically, I think in a game where we might be playing catch-up is definitely something that could happen.
Yeah, Washington's defense has not been good, obviously, this year, but the Chiefs are one of the teams that have put Washington in contention. One of the guys they're competing with to be one of the worst defenses in the league this year. The Chiefs do not have a good unit, definitely a lot less talented. They're a little bit banged up too, which maybe Washington can take advantage of, but I think it's going to be a shootout, and I think it's a good probability that Washington can hit that 21-point mark. I mean, the lowest point scored they have this year is 16 from the Chargers, and since then, I believe they've scored at least 21 in every game since then, and even had a couple of 30-point games. But I think that one has a good chance of hitting. Another one I checked out was that Washington rushes for more yards than Kansas City. Big reason I believe this, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is out, at least for this game. I think he's on IR for the Chiefs. Their backup, I believe, is Darrell Williams. And Washington has a pretty good run defense. Maybe it's because teams just pass the ball so much they don't need to run the ball. But Washington's run defense has been solid this year. I mean, Gibson's healthy. The Chiefs, obviously, we just talked about they don't have a good defense. I think Washington, and with a banged-up receiving core, they probably will lean on the run a bit more. We'll get a good Gibson workload. I think I like the odds of that one.
Last one I have, I hate being negative, but going off of the trend of our defense, Patrick Mahomes passes for 2 or more touchdowns and rushes for 10 or more yards. Definitely see that happening. Washington has surrendered numerous touchdowns in the back end this year, as we all know, and Patrick Mahomes is one of, if not the best quarterback in the NFL. So definitely think that one could hit.
I agree. I don't think it's necessarily a negative. I think it's pretty realistic that it happens. Mahomes has 16 passing touchdowns through 5 games so far. And, I mean, what evidence has there been that that's not going to continue in this game? I mean, Washington's secondary hasn't had a good game yet this year, and Mahomes, obviously the Chiefs have struggled. Somehow we're both 2-3 heading into this game, but the Chiefs, I mean, their passing offense has been firing this year, and there's like nothing to indicate that it won't be at least a favorable matchup for Mahomes to hit that mark. And then 10-plus rushing yards, I feel like that can just happen on one play. So there are 3 bets right there on Winview. We recommend you giving a check out, all pretty realistic in terms of good probability of happening. But let's dive into the game. And I think the first thing we have to talk about is the injury report. Washington started off the year kind of healthy, and they played some football games, and now we're pretty banged up heading into this one.
Yeah, a lot of guys on there that you don't want to see. Already knew about Brandon Sheriff, but now it's Cam Sims will also be out. Curtis Samuel, who has been injured since he signed here, will be out after he re-aggravated that groin. Who else am I missing here, Jess?
Sam Cosme is one guy you missed, I think. He
Yeah.
got ruled out earlier today. Samuel, obviously a bit disappointing that the groin / hamstring / lower body is still lingering. Touched on that in a post-game pod for the Saints, but not much more has changed since then. But Cosme is the real big one. He's been our best rookie by far this year, and he's out, so that's going to sting. But we like Corn Lucas. Believe that Corn Lucas can hold it down for at least a game. So tough to lose Cosme, but I mean, a couple of key players out there.
Not to get off topic, but did you see that we signed somebody else named Corn? So we have 2 Corns on the team.
We've got a Corn, we've got a Mayo, we've got a
Cheeseman.
cheese. Yeah, we got the whole cookout lineup.
Yeah, well, too bad. I don't think this game is going to be very much of a picnic. Anyway, getting into key matchups a little bit. Or I'm sorry, we need to go over Kansas City injuries. I'm sorry.
Chiefs injury report. Agreeing with you there.
Yeah.
Don't think we have gotten official game statuses for a couple of their players, but just looking over their Thursday injury report, 4 starters they had did not participate Thursday at practice. Joe Thuney, I believe he broke his hand last week. I mean, I know it's still possible for linemen to play with broken hands or wrists. Maybe he's got a club that he's wearing, but there's a possibility that their star O-lineman Joe Thuney is out with a hand injury. Chris Jones, star defensive tackle, missed last week, did not practice at all this week. We'll have to see. I mean, maybe his game status comes out when we release this pod. Starting cornerback Charvarius Ward, another guy who's hasn't practiced all week. And then Tyreek Hill. That's a big one. That is a big one because Chiefs don't have much else at wide receiver minus Hill. I think initial reports were that he wouldn't miss any game time. Maybe they're just taking it easy on him this week, but we'll see. We'll see on Hill. That's a big one there.
If this team's missing Hill, this goes from we're probably not winning this game to we have somewhat of a chance because Tyreek Hill is absolutely one of the most explosive players in the NFL and should be keeping our defensive coaches up at night, knowing what he could do to the secondary if it continues to perform the way it has over the course of the season.
Now it's time to roll into some key matchups for the game. First one I have, I've got Chase Young versus Orlando Brown Jr. Chase Young, I mean, at least the first couple weeks of the season, we were talking about where are you? Where is our number 2 defense? Where is the guy that's supposed to be a wrecking force on our defense? And he's had a good string of games. That Atlanta game, he was really good. Had some plays taken away because of penalties. Not going to get into that, how dumb those were. But he had a good game against the Saints. He had against Ryan Ramczyk, too, who's a really good right tackle. And I think Young's been hot. I mean, he's been getting pressures, but he hasn't been getting sacks. Pressures obviously matter a bit more than sacks. So I think the defensive line steps up again. I mean, they're in a flow. Chiefs offensive line, little bit underwhelming so far this year. I like his matchup with Orlando Brown, but I think Chase Young has a big one this game. And I think if the defense wants a chance of slowing down the Chiefs offense, it starts with keeping Mahomes constantly pressured.
Yeah, the defensive line isn't getting really the credit that it deserves because of how bad the secondary and the second level of the defense has been. Chase obviously want to see him get sacks, but these pressures have been making a difference over the last couple of weeks, as you mentioned. And I saw a stat today on Pro Football Focus that he has the most snaps, defensive snaps in the NFL without a missed tackle. So when he's performing, he's getting home, and he's doing the job, and he's wrapping guys up. But I definitely think he has opportunity to have a bigger game this coming week against Kansas City. One key matchup that I have will be Terry versus the Kansas City pass defense. Obviously, you mentioned that they could have a starting corner out and an already not very good defense. Terry was put on the injury report today, questionable with a hamstring injury, but by the sounds of Ron Rivera earlier in his press conference, it sounded that it is likely that Terry will play and that it was more precautionary than anything and just soreness. Um, like I said earlier, I think we might be playing from behind, playing a little bit of catch up in this game. And Terry, I think last week was a fluke because he had a lot of balls thrown behind him, and a couple in a different direction might have changed the narrative of his last performance. But Terry is having the best year of his or the best year of his career, to be quite frank. And I think tomorrow or Sunday, rather, will be a great opportunity to showcase that against Kansas City.
I might be a little bit off in the exact number of the statistic, but I believe it's that the Chiefs are allowing 7.2 or 7.4 yards per play. That's terrible. That's terrible, to put it bluntly. And I like Terry's matchup as well. I mean, I think he plays too, although he was questionable on injury report. All signs point to them just being cautious with their star player in general. So I think Terry plays. I think a large load of the offense is going to have to run through him again. But I think he has a good one. I mean, the Chiefs, I think he'll probably match with L'Jarius Sneed for the most part, who was a pretty good rookie corner last year. But Terry's got to have a big one if we want to keep up with the Chiefs offense. And I think that's a good matchup as well.
The next matchup I have is one that probably scares me the most, and that is Travis Kelce versus our coverage linebackers. Last week, Jamin Davis only saw 13 snaps somehow. Jack Del Rio in his press conferences says that he wishes that, more or less saying that he wishes Jamin Davis would get out of his head and just play the game instead of overthinking it. And that's not what you want to hear from your first round draft pick who's barely playing at all. So that's going to leave you with guys like Khaleke Hudson and David Mayo, covering guys like Travis Kelce, and that's a freaking nightmare. So they better scheme this one up good, because Travis Kelce versus the second level of that defense is not something that I want to see right now, given how bad they've been.
Even if it's not freaking David Mayo versus Travis Kelce, it's still going to be Kelce versus Cole Holcomb or Landon Collins or someone like that. And I don't know if that's any better in terms of coverage matchup. Washington hasn't been terrible against tight ends this year, but Travis Kelce is the best in the business. There's no one better at what they do than what he does at that position. And if Tyreek doesn't play, or if Tyreek's banged up, especially with Edward T-Lair out too, offense is probably going to run through Kelce. And I don't know if there's anyone we can really match up on the defense to stop him, or if I even have enough confidence in the defense adjusting to solely just focusing on Kelce. So I've got him on my fantasy team. Maybe win-lose situation here for me at least. But yeah, I don't like how our defense matches up with Kelce at all. So we did just touch on how the Washington defensive line has been having some pretty good games. Daron Payne having insane pressure numbers the past few weeks since that Buffalo game. Jonathan Allen's been having a phenomenal year. Top 5, top 10 interior rusher right now. Unfortunately, gets negated, like Sam says, by our terrible back 7 of the defense, or back 6, since we can only play one linebacker. But Montez Sweat, he's been making plays too. We talked about Young. So I want to see, does the Washington defensive line dominate, or at least noticeably show a really good game again? And how does the rest of the defense around them respond to that? Because Chiefs been struggling a bit this year. Obviously, they're still the Chiefs, still threats all the time. Every play could be a touchdown for them, just with how much speed and explosiveness is on that offense. But can the Washington D-line, that's been on a hot streak, can they continue and really take over this game? Like, can they really make up for the issues on the back end?
They need to show us this game that they're the strong point of the team. I'm tired of talking about it. I want to see results. I don't want to be, oh, they played well, but didn't really have anything happen. Like you said, they need to take control of this game. That leads me into next observation. I would like to see if Taylor Heineke can improve from last week's debacle, where he seemingly just threw balls up in the air and hoped and prayed. Did a little bit of that in the Atlanta game, had some interceptions dropped, got a little bit lucky, didn't get so lucky in New Orleans. Let's see if he can tamper down the craziness and wild throws and play a little bit more, taking what the defense gives them, a little bit more game manager style that we've been looking for. So hope to see a rebound from Heineke.
On the flip side of the trenches, offensive line is missing Brandon Sheriff and Sam Cosmi in this game. we like our depth a lot. Quinn Luke is going to be stepping in for Cosme. Schweitzer stepped in for Sheriff last week and did not really miss a beat. So does the offensive line – I mean, the offensive line has been easily the best positional group this year for the team. They've been great in pass blocking. They've been pretty solid in run blocking. I mean, now down 2 starters, does the depth hold up, and do they continue to play at the level they've been playing at, or are we going to feel that loss of 2 starters a little bit more? So looking at that, especially if Chris Jones doesn't play, or if he does play and he's banged up for the Chiefs, can they essentially negate the Chiefs' pass rush and allow Heineke a chance at that bounce back game at picking apart a very not good Chiefs secondary?
Jumping into game predictions, if I'm being totally honest, I don't think this is a game that Washington wins. I think the defense will be, at least secondary-wise, will be exposed again, given how the coaching staff seems to think that they are right there and refuse to make changes. So I can't see Washington really coming close enough to give Kansas City a fight, because I don't think the offense is going to be able to go tit for tat with Patrick Mahomes. So I see Washington losing this game by a score of 42-27.
We're kind of in the same ballpark there. I think Washington's offense has a good opportunity here to really get some things going, maybe have a nice showing, maybe get a 100-yard game out of both Gibson and Terry, which would be nice. But there's been nothing this year to kind of prove me that the defensive secondary and their coverages or their schemes or level of play will be anything different than what we've seen the first 5 weeks of the season. Nothing that any of the coaches have said had made me think anything different. My expectation, not trying to be negative, but it's just the pattern that the team has laid out for us at this point, that we're going to have the exact same stuff we've had all year. And Andy Reid's an offensive guru. He's probably going to pick out matchups that we didn't even know were bad on the defense, and he's probably going to expose them. I mean, can Washington win this game if they catch the Chiefs on a really off game and everything goes right for them? Yes. I mean, the Chiefs are a beatable team. They're not the same dominant Chiefs we've seen run through the AFC in back-to-back years. But then again, what has Washington shown us this year to make us think that they could beat the Chiefs? Like, our 2 wins are against bottom feeder teams that we beat at the buzzer, essentially. I think Washington has a nice offensive showing. Defense is going to continue to be a problem. I've got Washington losing 38-28.
So everybody knows that suddenly they decided to, they say not suddenly, but it's looking more and more like it was a pretty sudden decision, retire Sean Taylor's number 21 Sunday before the game. The team announced this 4 days before the game was scheduled to happen, and announced that 10,000 fans, the first 10,000 fans, would get a free commemorative towel, and that Sean would be on the programs. Fans, rightfully so, including myself, responded with displeasure and distaste, and it just seems like a complete, hey, let's take a distraction off of what's going on with the front office and just slap a 21 sticker on it and call it a day, which in turn is a slap in the face to the franchise and the dwindling fan base that they still loyally somehow still have. I don't know how deep you want to get into this, Jess, or like what more can be said that, isn't already going through the minds of fans like you and I alike. But I know, at least for me, like, I remember the day Sean Taylor died. Sean Taylor died 3 weeks before I left for the military. And I remember it happening. Like, I sat there, I watched ESPN, and I cried. Like, I could not believe it. He was my favorite player. And I think a lot of Washington fans can say the same thing. This is just like, I don't understand, like, cleaning house, having Jason Wright, like, how you could be this tone deaf and in your statement say we didn't expect fans would want to come to this. That statement in itself shows you the mindset of our front office, of our leadership, or supposed leadership of this team. It's I don't want to get too winded about it. I'm sorry. I'm just pissed off, and it rubbed me an entirely new way of wrong.
Sam, you and I talked at fair length about this before we started recording the pod. Both had some good thoughts that we shared about it, but I think, there's been a lot of outrage on Twitter, across social media platforms, and across national football media too, where it's like the timing of this is so bad. It's just Sean Taylor. He died in 2007. It's been 14, almost 15 years since his death. Pretty well known over that course of time that no one was going to wear 21. It's not that everyone was. Well, actually, not. Let me redact that a little bit. Everybody has been wanting his number to be retired for the longest time. It's not like this is the first time the team's in an alumni weekend. It's not like this is the first opportunity they've had to retire his number in any or any ceremony and dedication in any capacity. It's that this comes out on such short notice with so little time for. Imagine if you announced this in June of last. They announced Bobby Mitchell's number retirement in June of 2020, and they were able to plan accordingly throughout the 2020 season. Had the nice 49 patches, had a nice Bobby Mitchell ceremony in the opening of the 2021 season. It's like that all worked flawless. That all worked well, but Sean Taylor, the most probably notable Washington player nationally in this millennium. Is that fair? He's the most recognizable Washington player in this millennium.
Without a doubt. It's without a doubt. It's not close.
So you take the guy that everyone in the fan base loves, and that everyone in the fan base has seen or watched highlights of in some capacity, and you not only announce the ceremony 3 days beforehand, but you announce it in the middle of a league-wide, not even league-wide, like a national news media crisis of bad publicity that is coming to Washington side, and then you toss this out there last minute. Like, it is just so bad on so many levels, and I can't none of us are even like marketing or finance or just like business people, and it's like we're like just casual people on Twitter, casual folks like us can see that it is such bad PR from the outside looking in. It baffles me how no one in the organization like thoroughly thought this through. It's like if you announce this in June, it's like imagine the hype that you could get of people buying tickets to this game, of selling 21 merch, of hyping up and bringing the biggest possible crowd you can to Sean Taylor's retirement ceremony, like in June for a matchup against Patrick Mahomes on alumni weekend for Washington homecoming. Like imagine how much hype that have coming into the season, as opposed to in the middle of October, half a week beforehand, when the team is looking like crap every week in the middle of a national news controversy surrounding the team. It's a slap in the face. The most beloved player of this millennium of the franchise. It's disappointing. It's a new level of bad for Washington. And even like after they announced, it's not just that they announced it that way, but like even after the severe amount of backlash that they got for it, like there were so many suggestions just to push it back to like Monday Night Football on November 29th against the Seattle Seahawks. It's like, I saw this on Twitter. I think it was just some fan suggested it. He said that's 2 days after Sean Taylor's death. It's Monday Night Football. The NASCAR racing season's over, so Joe Gibbs will be there. You can easily get Greg Williams out to the game. A lot more people would be there. It's a prime time stage. It's Monday night. You can get Louis Riddick there too, since he's with the Monday Night Crew. And that was just a casual fan's idea, and it is so much better than anything this organization came up with for this whole process. It's disappointing, it's frustrating, and it's a new level of bad that we have to get embarrassed by.
There was no process, Jess, and it's becoming glaringly evident. I don't care what they say. I don't believe a single word they say to me. I cannot sit here and believe that they genuinely thought that it would be okay to do this on 3 days' notice. We got 3.5 years of Sean Taylor. We have 20 plus years of pain from Dan. Pack your freaking bags, Dan, and leave, dude. Like, I'm sick of this shit.
Yeah, I just said it. I have to say it is a new level of disappointing and frustration for Washington. I mean, I open this up describing how much crap is going around Washington right now, not even in regards to how they played this year. And this is like the one thing that you would think they can't mess up. Like the one thing that's been like beloved for the franchise, for the fan base that we've held on to year after year after year. It's like the one constant that everybody can come together on. And it's done in like the most like it's just done in like the worst way possible. Like, not that it shouldn't, like, obviously these numbers should be retired. It should have happened 10 years ago. Like, it shouldn't have been this long. And even if you waited this long, at least do the process. With the lack of the process, I agree with it. Just like I've run out of words speaking about just the disappointment that kind of comes with this. And uh, like, I don't know. I don't really know what to say. It's sad, and I mean, I hope they somehow now last minute push it back to at least salvage the potential of what kind of event this can be. But unfortunately, the stadium is probably going to be like 60% filled and a 50-50 split between Chiefs and Washington fans because of the mismanagement of handling this. And I just don't see any way that this isn't a mess. And it's sad. It's
gonna be
sad.
Chiefs fans selling us. It's gonna be Chiefs fans selling us towels back on eBay because we can only get them to the first 10,000 fans. Then to try to make it better, oh, you can buy them. Like what, dude? Come on, like what? Come on. It's so tone deaf, and there's just nothing else to say about it. I'm absolutely disgusted. I'll be there because it's Sean Taylor, but he didn't deserve this at all. That's all we have for you this week, guys, and thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Sam of WSH Football 365, and that was Jess of HTTR.Nation. Both can be found on Instagram. Come back later in the week as we recap this matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to our YouTube and be sure to follow us on all places where podcasts can be found. Thanks so much for tuning in, and go football team.